Alrighty. So yeah, thanks for coming, everybody. Hi Byron, hi Sven, hey Guillaume, hey Pedro, hey Petros. We're here today to talk about the Low Code Foundation, to give a presentation, first of all, of what the Low Code Foundation is, why we are creating a foundation, what is the point of all of this, what is the actual status of the foundation to help reassure everybody about what we're trying to do, and to give a brief on the roadmap that we're currently working on, and then it's open to questions. So just anybody can take the mic and ask whatever. I've got Guillaume here with me today, who is a co-founder in the association. There's also my lovely wife, Carolina, who's going to be the treasurer, but who's also a coder, who's going to be part of the legal head of the foundation. And in theory, everybody who wants to be a member can become a member and have a voice and a vote. It's the idea of creating a foundation and association is to have an official legal entity in France with the that's generated from the idea that we want Noodle to survive. We see the risk in if nobody takes control of the situation, if nobody tries to promote Noodle and to finance potentially improvements to Noodle, then there's a possibility that we won't have what we need. We won't have any kind of improvements to the editor, and that it could potentially fall out of favor and become obsolete. So for me, that's not possible. So just to say a bit about why I wanted to create a foundation and why, Guillaume can explain his part afterwards. My part is because I am a full-time developer for client projects. So I have LearnBook, which you might have seen from videos. I showed the Pity Picnic yesterday, which is a side project. But my main job, my 9 to 5, is building client apps. So I was doing that in Bubble full time. I switched over to Noodle. Now I'm pretty much doing it in Noodle full time, although I still have some Bubble work, but most of my work is on Noodle. I don't really see any alternatives at the moment, but that's open to discussion. This is, we're the low code foundation. We're not the Noodle foundation. So it's open to discussion whether that's something that's right or not. But for me right now, Noodle is the best choice for building complex client applications like dashboard applications, SaaS applications, marketplaces, the kinds of things that I build are only really possible for me in Noodle with the price, with the budget that is being given to me by clients. So anywhere between 10 and 30K, something like that. We're working with these kind of clients, and you cannot go to a coding agency and get them to code what they're trying to do, a full dashboard app for 30K. It's just not possible. So, Noodle is for me the only option. Bubble is there, yeah, but that's locked in and etc. And we know all the problems that there are with Bubble. My origin of coming to Noodle was joining the Bubble Telegram group when we were all trying to get away from Bubble. So that, that in those days, we saw what a private company can do when your entire stack is dependent on them, and your business model and your finances are dependent on their stack being working and their pricing model not changing. And then they suddenly decide to change. And they give you a year to prepare for it, but how do you prepare for going bankrupt? So that was why I got into Noodle, and that's part of my drive in creating a foundation, in creating this nonprofit, is to protect that people who want to build, protect myself, my clients, and by extension protecting other people, because I have a nonprofit streak. I do like helping people, so it's me first, of course, like everybody. I want to protect my clients and my business first, but I also want to protect other people. So I want people to be able to look to a nonprofit like the Low Code Foundation and know that we are not trying to screw them. We're not trying to convince them to join so then we can rack up the prices later. We're not trying to push them into a solution that's not good for them. We're genuine in what we're trying to do, because we can't take profits. And so this is why we created a foundation with the legal status of a foundation. So it is essentially like opening a company. In France, when you open what they call an association, which is the their name for a nonprofit. It is like opening a company. So we have an official status, we can have a business number, we have a bank account that's in the name of the company. The bank account is under the control of me, Guillaume, and Carolina, who are the three official heads of the foundation. We have an elected position. So we have elected ourselves because we are the founders. But if lots of people join the foundation, then I can't remember when the elections are, but like every year, something like that, or every 3 years, there's elections where everybody who's a member of the foundation can vote on who should be the new head of the foundation, who should be the new treasurer, who should be the new vice president. And so that's it gives us a legal framework to work from. We also have legal statuses as well, which which will be public, and I'll make public. I think I have maybe already made them public, where you can read the what we did to constitute the foundation in writing, and what the rules are of the association, what our mission is, the most important thing. So, pay close attention to that, because this is what we are supposed to be doing. And if we deviate from this, we can be shut down, essentially. The French government could shut us down if we deviate from this. If we start conducting business and selling things and, offering some kind of SaaS product and screwing everybody who's a member out of money, it contravenes what this mission is. It means that the legal entity of the association could be audited, it could be potentially shut down, or that the current president and vice president, people who are in charge, could be kicked out by kind of force majeure, as they call it in French, by people who are members of the association coming together and kicking out the president for doing something that is against the rules of the association. So this exists for the members to be conscious as well of what we're supposed to be doing, and for them to keep accountable the people who are in charge of the association. So there's lots of rules about how people can get admission to the association, so they get a vote, how they have to pay a fee every year, and the fee will be something like 10 euros a year or something, just to keep the admin fees of having a bank account or whatever, being able to pay off the minimum cost that it takes to run this thing, how you can get out of the association, etc. When we do our ordinary general meeting, extraordinary general meeting, so you can call an extraordinary general meeting if there's something really bad going on with in the association, if it's being badly managed. Who the board of directors is. So like I said, we've got a president, we've got 5 members of a board of directors. So far we have 3 members, so we will need to vote on 2 more, which is something that we can do throughout the year. And that the board members are elected every 3 years, and they can only be re-eligible twice. So you can have a 9-year total stint as a president if everybody keeps voting for you, but after that it's like American elections, you have to step down and let someone else take control, which is fine. In the end, the director's position is just the business managers. It doesn't have to be necessarily the directions that the association takes. You could have cells inside the association who are responsible for completing certain missions, who have the green light of the board of directors to do a certain mission, who are given funds. So like in any nonprofit, I worked in nonprofits before in Ireland, where there was it was a young people's association. So you had the kind of drug counseling part, you had the education part, the job searching part, and they all were individual cells that operated under a budget that they were given from the board of directors every year. So the bigger we get, the more we get financing, the more we can actually create something of a company structure out of it that in the end is protected from any kind of profiteering, any kind of profit-hungry activities like the likes of Bubble or anyone like that. So we're starting on a legal footing, on a legal status that means that we, legally speaking, can be held accountable by every single person who's a member of the association, and that it can only take donations. It can take donations. It can also make money from service providing, like any other business. It can make money from sales. I can sell you t-shirts if I want to, but the money that comes into the association from the sale of those t-shirts cannot go to me, cannot go to Guillaume, cannot go to Carolina, can go to Byron if Byron does a mission for the association. If we rent out Byron to a company to develop a Noodle app for them, Byron can bill the foundation, and the foundation can pay Byron as a business transaction. So people who are freelancers working for the foundation can be paid for their freelance work, but the people who are involved in running the association cannot be paid for the work that they're doing. Or they can, but a very minimum amount. It's like less than the minimum wage, and that's only if you reach a certain number of members and etc. So if you have any questions about legal statuses and things like that, I'll open that up to the floor in a minute. Just to quickly go through the roadmap. So this is partly partly Pedro's, partly Guillaume's vision so far, and we want other people to contribute to this as well. But Pedro's helped us to clean it up and make it into very professional goals and targets and all that kind of stuff, is to work on things that are currently volatile and need to be updated in some way. So for me, the back end is something that really needs to get updated if we want to offer a full stack solution with Noodle, with Open Noodle, which is our fork. The foundation has made a fork of Noodle called Open Noodle. You can go and check the GitHub of the foundation, which I'll give you a link to afterwards. But you can have a look at all the different things we forked, like N8N, Node-RED, Noodle, the Noodle backend. For me, that's something that's a very attractive thing about Noodle, is that it has this integrated backend, that it has already all the cloud nodes installed. So you can do a query node, you can do a create node without having to code anything, which is great for no coders coming into the Noodle world. So I would really like to upgrade the backend. But there's other things as well. As you can see here, we have some higher level goals at trying to attract more people to the Noodle community in general, growing the Noodle community. For me, that's through things like support and training. So I like to give support in the community to help people to get started on Noodle. And I also plan to give training. It'll be paid training. I do free training on my YouTube. I'll do paid training in person. And that will be something that will help people to grow with Noodle, to build better projects with Noodle that will have more success. And that will be a virtuous cycle that leads to more people coming into Noodle and using it to create serious projects. I think it was with Sven the other day, or with Pedro's, we were talking about how we should really have more sharing of what we're doing in Noodle, because right now I think I could count them on one hand, the number of successful Noodle projects that I know of. And that's not a criticism of Noodle, it's a criticism of the community, that we're not sharing enough the successful projects that we're building with Noodle. So that's something that I would really like to fix with the foundation, to organize events that we can do, or show and tell presentations like what I did yesterday, but with more people who come and learn from what we're doing. Maybe doing hackathons, things where we can attract people to come and try Noodle, spend a day on it, really bash their heads against the wall trying to build something. And maybe at the end of the day, we build a charity application. I saw that done with Bubble once. It was great. With a French non-profit here in France. It's called the, what are they called? The No Code something? No Code France. No Code France. They organized the No Code conference in France, in Paris. There was Emmanuel from Bubble came to that, for example. So they're really successful. So we have good models to work from as well, by the way, with these kind of things. We see what No Code France are doing for promoting their community and growing their community, and a lot of it centers around training and employability. I can nearly speak today. Training and employability. Train people to be good at the tool, make it so that they can get employment, that they can be a freelancer and they can build stuff for other people, because there's more business in building apps for other people than there is for building apps for yourself. I started building an app for myself 8 years ago. And I got asked to build another app by a partner of mine, and that became a full-time job. And then I started getting asked by more and more people to build apps, and it became a full-time job for the last 6 years. So, that's something that we can try to promote as well with Noodle. Since it's open source, it can be hosted anywhere. It's a great product for clients. So I really believe strongly in it as a product, as a freelance developer. And we're hoping that we can grow the community and encourage more use of Noodle through that. And then hopefully that creates a financial model through contributions from the community. If we have crowdfunding and things like that, we can create funding to improve the backend, which is again a virtuous cycle, because it improves the people we're training who want to get a job building websites for people or themselves in Noodle. will benefit from a better backend, will benefit from a more stable editor, and will benefit from everything that we're doing. So that's the idea of the nonprofit, is to help generate cash, to build things that will help the people who gave the cash do a better job so they get a return on their investment. And everybody wins is our idea. So that's, anyway, I'll try not to be too much of a white knight. But this is also something that we'll share, or we have shared with the community. So you can read through all of our different, stay up to date with all the different actions we're taking about trying to improve the front end deployment system, making it easier to do one-click deployment, which is also something that our buddies over at Fluxscape are doing. Having a stability update to the Noodle editor. So I don't believe personally that we're going to have a lot of additions to the Noodle editor anytime soon, but I do believe that we need to keep it stable. So I do believe that we need to get somebody working on looking at, the community can tell us as well what the bugs are, what the major bugs are, and we can get working on fixing those to give that work to a developer. Also getting the chance to have someone get to know the code base, because nobody knows the code base, not that I know of, unless if you do, please speak up, but nobody knows the code base at the moment. So it would be nice to get a developer or two getting to know the code base, working on bug fixes, so that we can get better at maintaining Noodle, because if we don't maintain it, maybe it's got a year before it really starts falling apart. It'll never fall apart. It will, maybe we've got a year before there's some major security exploits that don't get fixed in the version of React that we're using and the backend we're using and whatever, the Noodle runtime, that people start exploiting these. If Noodle gets popular, it'll also attract attention from malicious entities who want to find out how to hack people's Noodle websites. And so they'll learn eventually how to do that. And we need to have the ability for developers to update and maintain the code base. So that's a super big priority for me. And then looking into things like improving the way that the editor looks. We found old screenshots from Storybook, old designs from Storybook that are still in the code base that were kind of half done by the Noodle team, by Tora and Kota, and are not finished, but just really nice visual improvements to the dashboard. You have like your list of projects, and you have like a learning panel and things like just easier access to learning materials to get people in and doing things faster. That's a cool project, but again, that's something that we need to price it up, and we need to see how much these things are going to cost. So that's where we're at today. We have a plan. We have a bank account. We have there's a French website that's also in English that allows us to accept donations for free with no commission. So we have a way to fund the association. We're going to start performing services as well and trying to get funding that way into the association, all the while publishing what the funding is being used for and being transparent with the members in the community about how we allocate funds to achieve these goals that I hope everybody in the association agrees on. But if they don't, they will be able to speak up and to talk to us about that, and we can adjust the roadmap based on that. So that is it for me. I'm going to hand over to Guillaume, who might want to say a few words about this. I don't know how to do that though, because I'm completely useless at all this stuff. Oh, there's Guillaume. Hang on. Are you able to speak, Guillaume?
Yeah.
Perfect.
You hear me?
Yeah, very well. Thanks.
I don't know if I have my webcam, but it's in that not. Okay. So as you may have read somewhere or heard Richard, I'm the vice president of this nonprofit organization. So a bit of introduction from me. So I have more than 30 years of experience on coding, and I've done system programming as business application programming, and I can develop in quite any language, any coding language or visual language, on any kind of platform. I mean, Windows, Linux, or Mac OS, or even mobiles. So it is. Second expertise is I'm an Oracle database administrator. So It means that I can work on any kind of SQL database. And last but not least, I'm also a system and network administrator, working on LAN WAN, VPNs, IP addressing, TCP routing, and many internet protocols like SMTP, POP3, NNTP, FTP, whatever you can think of TP, and be able to work with it. So I've been freelancing for many years. I have more than 20 years of entrepreneurship experience behind me, too, with more than 8 companies. And in development, I started, I suppose, like many with Bubble, but due to my experience in coding, I quickly found the limits of Bubble for developing applications in the way I used to always work with coding languages. And when I found Noodle, there was some kind of a click in my head that said, okay, this is the perfect tool for a coder that want to improve it's his productivity. So I quickly stuck to Noodle, moved from Bubble to Noodle, and very quickly, as I'm also a Xano expert, I created the Xano prefab, the Xano connector, and the Supabase connector to the prefab to use the Open Noodle language, to be able to connect the Open Noodle to those two backends. And so I found it very one of the best tools to improve my own productivity whilst still being able to do whatever I want. Meaning I can use no code for the main stuff to go fast and to solve what is the main coder problem is losing time typing code. Whereas when there are very complex stuff to get done, then being able to switch to back to a coding language like JavaScript or any other, well, JavaScript mainly. And so when I heard that Noodle was going open source, I found it. I wanted. I know what is an open source project and how to and the efforts that we'll have to give for getting such an open source project live. But I think it's worth doing it because it's really a product that I would even have done it, have downloaded the source code and maintained the app, even for me alone, because it's really something. One of the best tool, actually, in my opinion, to build web apps, and more than building web apps, it's really from the most simple website or web app to very complicated and complex and scalable web apps. So when we talk with Richard and many others regarding the opportunity to create a community for maintaining what we call actually Open Noodle, and quickly, of course, came the idea of having some legal organization to be able to support Noodle. And in France, because Richard and I are in France, the quickest way was to create some non-profit organization called Association, and to get things legal from the French and international perspective, and to be able, more than that, to get funds to get things working, just for a website and domain name and stuff like this, and being able, if the community grows really, to if the nonprofit makes a bit of money, to be able to spend it to pay for external competencies to help us maintaining it if we can't, or if there are things to get done. So now everything from an administrative perspective is up and running. And so now our main priorities is okay. Richard presented all the goals and targets, and that means being able for us to as community manager to make it possible for any member of the community to be able to and to want to help us maintaining and developing and growing, improving, enhancing the Open Noodle. And well, I think I've talked quite a lot already, but I'm actually taking a course on React.js. Plus, I'm exploring all the Open Noodle source code files to be able to understand and grasp what the essence of the of this app, and being one of those who will be able to apply patches to correct bugs, fix bugs, etc. I think I'll be on my side quite operational on it, perhaps by the end of May or beginning of June, because it's as you can imagine, it's a huge source code to apprehend, to read, to understand. But it's worth the effort. Here it is.
Thanks, Guillaume. Perfect. So yeah, I thought that's I agree with everything Guillaume said, and I would throw over to questions. I would say we don't have a lot of audience members, and the video will be very sad if we don't have any questions. So please, you have to. I'm not even asking. You have to ask your question. So everybody has to ask one question. It's an AMA, so it's supposed to be ask me anything. Petros is putting his hand up. Hang on, I have to kind of like turn the mic around every time because I'm so crap at this video recording stuff that I have to like get the microphone to record the voice of the person who's speaking. So just I'll let Pedro speak and I'll do my microphone trick and it'll be fine. How do I let you speak? Okay, got it. I can do that at least. Go ahead, Pedros.
Oh yeah, I think you can hear me now. Thanks for the presentation. I do have a question regarding the vision, the goals, the targets, and the actions. Or rather a suggestion. I think it would be a good idea to kind of justify why the goals were selected and prioritized, in order not to justify to them to persuade us that they're correct, but also to be for there to be a transparency in the sense of what the direction of at least Open Noodle is. So if, for example, you think that updating the editor or updating parse is a high priority, then the reasoning would be you'd have to kind of argue why this is and how it aligns with the goals that were selected, which were not selected yet, just to be clear. Those are just suggestions by me. So let me try to put it into a little bit different words. What are we trying to achieve with Open Noodle? Are we trying to make it more stable? Okay, but why? Do we need more users on it? Okay, fine. Which users? Are we trying to pull more bubble users into Noodle? Is that a market we're trying to hit? If that's the market, then how do we do that? Do we need more modules? Do we need more prefabs? Do we need more tutorials? Or do we need a more stable code base, for example? Or do we need one click? And which order do we need these things? The reason I'm saying all of this is because if there is a direction, then the Open Noodle can move faster to its targets, which should also align with the viability of the low code foundation. Since I know that Noodle is not officially the point of the low code foundation, but right now it's at its core. So I do recommend that there is some sort of, I don't know, voting structure or another discussion, or maybe through this discussion, that at least the goals are selected and prioritized. So then the targets can start being set. Because without the goals, I don't think there's going to be a lot of not good alignment of how much work people are putting in to support this foundation.
That's
a great question, was it?
That's a great question. No, and I'll take it a little bit further as well. So it's important what you're asking about prioritizing, and we can go one step further in saying, if you imagine what's going to really happen realistically, we have all these nice plans, but realistically speaking, we are going to have limited, very, very limited funding at the beginning. So say we want to make some sort of update in the next 3 months. There's something really critical we want to update in the next 3 months. That's probably going to be the only thing that will get funded, because we're not going to get, we're looking probably for community contributions, maybe some profit sharing from hosting services. I can bring the Simple Ricks hosting services into the foundation and promote it through the foundation, change the name of it, and then give the proceeds to the foundation. But we're talking about, pulling in pennies. We're the guys shaking the little tin can outside the supermarket, trying to get some donations for our charity at Christmas. So what you said is important, because if we're going to fund something, it's probably going to be the only thing we can fund within the next, say, 3 months, until we publish something and we get credible by showing that we've actually done something. And then we can maybe look at, outside funding and trying to go broader. Maybe we'll have more popularity by then. Maybe Noodl will be more popular. We'll train more people on Noodl. Getting people in from outside sources is hopefully going to happen more with training and onboarding, just with the community and the Noodle community and the Low Code Foundation community. So hopefully those things we can kind of solve just without any money. But the development part, we need to prioritize. So one possible, at the moment I have no solution. I prioritize the back end because it's my own personal project. Now that doesn't mean that it has to be funded through the foundation. If I find a way to do it myself, I'll do it myself. Like Guillaume said, he's going to try to get in the code and do it himself. So what I would say we would do is we would first of all start with membership. So we'll ask people to become members of the association so they can all have a right to vote, have a legal reason to be there. And then collect information from the community about what the most important things to do are. So like you said, Petros, it could be the back end, it could be the front end stability, it could be marketing to get more people in from the no-code community. There are lots of different things we could be doing. We should put those together, as you've already done, into this nice way of structuring goals and targets, and then have some sort of vote, which there's a good example here locally where there was a government fund set up where local people could vote on local projects that were set up by local people. So I could make a project to add a public swimming pool in my local village, and it cost this much, and I could get people around my village to vote for my project, and then that government fund could get allocated to my project. So that's the kind of thing we could do, where we have to put together, or the community, the foundation members put together a pitch, something they think is a priority to be fixed. And then we put them all together and we have a vote, and people vote on what they think is the most important. And the one that has the most votes will then be the one that we say, okay, this one is one, it's going to cost 5K. So we need to open up a fundraising round for 5K. Let's hope that people contribute. Let's look for contributors and then get that built and move on to the next thing. I don't think we're going to have much scope for doing more than one thing at the beginning. So I would say let's focus on getting the priority right. So having enough participation. We need members. We need lots of people, at least, let's say a dozen or a couple of dozen people who are all talking and voting on what the priorities are, building these pitches. And then we can decide as a group what we think is the best way to spend the money, and then look for the ways to fund it. That would be probably my first priority. So my back end idea is just my idea, but that's just because I was there first. But we're going to make more ideas, and we're going to put that to a vote. And if my idea doesn't get voted for, I'll go and try to do it myself. This is the point of the foundation as well, is that we're all trying to contribute. It's not just about spending money. So I hope that answers your question, Petros. I'm not going to try to justify the back end thing right now. think we don't have enough time for that, and I would like everyone to ask questions. But that should be something we do in an upcoming meeting. We should meet again regularly, once a week, say, and everybody has an opportunity to come and let their voice be heard and say what they think the priorities are. Oh, John can't hear me. You can unmute hear music. Yeah, I think you have to join, John. I don't know if he can hear me. He has to join the thing. Another question, please. Somebody put their hand up. I need questions. So Yogesh is going to ask a question. Let me do my microphone trick. Okay, go ahead, Yogesh. I can't hear you. You have to unmute your microphone.
I want to know whether you are going to prioritize upgrading of MongoDB or the past backend as well as the React, which is currently being used or not. So this is going to judge what we are going to do in future or how we are going to progress in future.
So it's a good question. Like Pedros was just saying, we can prioritize that. Hold on, move the audience. We can prioritize that if it's something that we decide collectively is a good idea. Remember that we have backends that are available, like Supabase, which Guillaume created a prefab for, which is open source. We have Xano, which is paid, but it's still very easy to use. So for new Noodle people, we do actually have better backends in theory than the Noodle one that we can use at the moment. It doesn't give the same level of integration. We have to create that integration ourselves sometimes with like uploading to S3 buckets instead of uploading to the parse backend, for example. But it is, so there's an argument that it could be a priority, but we have to come together and discuss it in future meetings to decide whether that really is a priority for the majority of people who are in the association, in our foundation, or not. But I'll be making the case for it. So I'll make the case. It's one of my top priorities. I'll be making the case for it. I'm having a study done at the moment by a friend of mine in France who's an engineer, a long-term engineer. I don't want to say old because he might be listening. But he's going to take a look into the code base of the backend and tell me how much it would cost to bring it up to speed with parse, because we're on parse 4 at the moment. I want to bring it up to parse 7. And bringing MongoDB up a bit as well. I think the MongoDB that's being used is a couple of versions behind the one that is parse 7 is able to use Mongo. I can't remember which version, but it's not the most recent one, but it's a fairly recent one, and they're planning on releasing support for the most recent Mongo in a year or two, I think. So they're not always up to date with the very, very latest cutting edge Mongo, but they're staying within a year or two of the releases of that. But that's a good question. I hope that answers your question, Yogesh.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Guillaume, did you want to say something? You're unmuting yourself.
Yeah. Regarding the prioritization, of course, it has to be a collective decision. I think, one of the most important thing, possibly, even if actually the version of Noodle is quite stable, working, and you can develop web apps. One of the main priorities is also the possibility to publish and to deploy an app and get it working. And regarding backend, yeah, there are many possibilities, either to have the OpenNoodle backend, OpenNoodle database, let's say, or perhaps using other products. So everything regarding this should be the result. The priorities should be the result of a collective decision, and so in the very near future, we're going to propose you several goal targets, like Petros said, then go in that direction. But it must be, I think, a collective decision.
Yeah, 100%. And, again, it's like not just us promising that, it's like the legal status of the foundation means that, we can, if you're not happy with what we're doing, the members can, if Guillaume and I and Carolina start really doing our own thing without any input from the community, if there's 4 members, that's enough people to kick us out. So like it's that gives you an idea of like if the members of the organization are really not happy with what we're doing, you can kick us out. You could become the new president and you take over the bank account and you carry on the company. So it's really that simple. It's that democratic. So you can really not just put your faith in us, but put your faith in the legal system of France, where these things like associations are very much legally protected. Even my little girl does ballet dancing, and it's run by an association who they take money for the dancing and they pay the teacher, but they were misusing the funds. And the parents who take the kids to the dancing all gave out flyers and got together and contacted all the other parents, and they voted to kick out the presidents who were misusing the funds. So they replaced them with new people, and now it's running smoothly again. So it's really something where you can put your faith in the legal system of France and not just in the faith of people like me and Guillaume, who you don't really know, and you have no reason to trust us. So I'd like another question, please, from anybody. You have to ask a question. You must be curious. Byron, I'm going to hand over the mic to Byron. Do my little trick again. Okay, go ahead. Are you there, Byron? No, where are you? Invite to speak. Come on, we can do this. Yes.
Got it. Hey, everyone. Yes, I was just thinking, I think it's great that we have all the legal protections and that does bring some ease, but my mind is more coming from how can we make sure that there's enough money, maybe coming from America, being a dirty capitalist and all that. I want to make sure there's enough funding to actually do the things that we want to do. So, I think it'd be great if we could spend a little more time brainstorming on that area. I think donations, are tough. We all know they don't really happen much. So, what other assets do we have? Just one thought, we have some good expertise in this group, and we have a lot of people who are looking for help. So I think one member benefit could be, you get more support, I guess, in a way. Just an idea. Obviously, other things people have been doing, hosting, etc. But yeah, just wanted to raise the topic of generating cash flow for the organization.
Sure, and that's a very good question. So it's another thing where we don't have a clear way forward at the moment because we haven't tested it. The mystery about the Noodle community is we don't know how many people, and it's the same with the Bubble community back in the days. We don't know how many people are really, really serious about it. Again, we don't have enough transparency over how many serious projects are currently running on Noodle. Could there be people who are scared about how the future of Noodle is going to go and they would be happy to contribute? They're a company and so they have more funds. It gives them a tax break. What we need to do is, first of all, get the dialogue open. So to open up the channels of discussion, to have people come to me, to Guillaume, to whoever, to talk to us about their situation and how they could maybe help. So the donations is that path of just opening dialogue and talking to people how they could donate, talking to people about that they can get tax breaks because it's a legal nonprofit in France. They can probably get some sort of tax break. And going down that road for donations. In terms of generating revenue, and it's written in our legal statuses as well, in our legal statutes, sorry. The idea would be that if the Low Code Foundation becomes something seen as credible and trustworthy, then potentially we can run projects through the Low Code Foundation. For example, say there's a client looking for an agency to develop an app for them. If the Low Code Foundation takes the prospecting call and gives the work to a freelancer, then the Low Code Foundation could expect to have a commission from the work that's given to the freelancer. So perhaps the freelancer is paid whatever your hourly rate is, 70, 80, 90 bucks an hour, and maybe the association is charging the client 110, 120. So we're keeping some of the proceeds from that in the foundation, and that can only be used for financing foundation projects. So that would be another way, would be profit sharing with people who want to use the foundation. If I bring in Simple Rick's hosting to the foundation and I start charging for paid hosting and I have help to be able to make it more secure and whatever, then the money that's charged for hosting, it could pay off some of my expenses for having the server and all that kind of stuff, developing the app, and then the rest can be left over for the foundation. So that creates a monthly revenue stream. It might only be a couple of $100 a month for the number of people who want to host with the foundation, but it's still some money that can build up. So, but I think the answer to Byron, your question is, we don't know yet. What we need is to kind of open up and to demystify what's happening at the moment in the Noodle community, who really wants to stay. We need to follow Petros's ideas as well, and that we need to get people in the community. We need to increase the community and the competent people in the community so that we start getting more interest, more people who could potentially take projects through the local foundation, get training from me, take paid hosting. We need more bodies to do that. So we need more people coming from the world of WeWeb, Bubble, Flutterflow, who are looking for an alternative that's open source. And that's something we need to talk about. So we need to make a plan. We need a strategy. We need marketing strategies. We need a communication strategy. And these are the kind of things that we will try to organize internally. These are the things where we need volunteer roles. We need people who are good at marketing, who, John was mentioning crowdfunding. Yes, we can do crowdfunding, but I don't know anything about crowdfunding. Oh, sorry, it was it's Fred who mentioned crowdfunding. So, that could be something to look into, but we need to have some expertise. So if you're a volunteer, and I would hope that most members of the foundation would also volunteer some of their time to give whatever your competency is. So if you're really good at posting on TikTok, then do some videos for us. If you're really good at writing, marketing strategies, then do that for us. If you're really good at creating graphics and logos, do that for us. The logo here is generated by ChatGPT. So, if everybody chips in, then we can make a plan and a strategy and then fill the bodies in that strategy who are needed to achieve the goals that we're talking about here: getting funding, finding revenue sources, increasing the number of members and the number of people who are using Noodle, and ultimately providing maintenance, support, and improvements to the code base of the Noodle editor and potentially the backend as well. So I hope that answers your question, Byron. Another question, please. We have 10 minutes left. Maybe Fred, maybe John, maybe Sven. Oh, Pedros has a question again. I didn't mean again in a bad way, by the way. I mean like good.
No, it is in a bad way, because if other people want to speak, I'd rather give priority to them. I just wanted to comment one more thing. Apart from the big stuff that I guess it might need money or like a big developer to come and or a big team of developers to come and sort out, there's probably going to be a number of other small items that anybody from the community can contribute, not financially, but with their own time. And it would be good to put them out there that, we could use help with this really small, simple thing, but maybe it's 100 of them. And you could take over this really small thing, which doesn't need a lot of expertise to get done. Maybe it's a free prefab that is not very complicated, but it needs testing or it needs deployment. And if anybody that even doesn't have the expertise to do it can take over and tries a bit, that would actually be helpful. So the reason I'm insisting on the targets and the goals and the actions is that even these small items are out there to the community, and they can see it and they can think, oh, you know what, I can't do the big thing, but I can put a small pebble in this entire thing that they're doing and help out. That's what I wanted to contribute.
That's a very good point. And it also raises the point of something I'd like to make very clear as well, which is when you contribute that small pebble and you're able to give something back to the association, it's a nonprofit. So if you're volunteering and giving your time, you shouldn't really expect anything in return, I guess. But it doesn't really encourage people to do much. We're not like, not everybody is altruistic to the core. Like Byron said, we are still capitalists, I guess. So most of us, at the end of the day, we need money to pay the rent anyway. So I think the one thing we can focus on and make very clear in the coming weeks and months is that when you contribute something to the Low Code Foundation will try to help you to achieve what you want. And what I would love is if it's a win-win for everybody, that when I contribute something to the Low Code Foundation, I get more people paying for Simple Rick's hosting because more people hear about it just by the fact that we're talking about it. So I would like that people know that I'm an app developer. Maybe they take me on for coaching. Maybe, Guillaume as well, that Guillaume is a very good person to work with. It could be that you have some sort of need of his skills. Anybody who contributes will be put forward in the foundation as somebody who is a contributor with their profile, with their LinkedIn, with their skills. Maybe you get a blue check or something in we'll build a job board. It's one of the things I would like to do myself, or what we can do as a community. We'll build a job board that could just be a Noodle app where people can go and list their RFPs, their requests for proposals, like they do on Bubble. So, if you're a contributor in the Low Code Foundation, maybe you get a gold symbol on your profile that means that people can trust you more, and so you're more likely to win projects in the future or something like that. So I think that we can easily make incentives, and the more that we have people contributing pebbles, the more that the tool gets better, the more that people will be attracted to build with the tool, the more that those people who contributed the pebbles will have an ecosystem where they can benefit from making money and getting new projects, making new contacts. So it is absolutely a virtuous cycle if we can just add that part of people contributing, understanding that they will get the benefit of the promotion of the Low Code Foundation, having a bit more visibility through the Low Code Foundation that helps us get more members, that helps us deliver that promise. So I hope that just becomes a self-fulfilling cycle, and it's not one person's leadership that leads to that, but it's just the ecosystem that developed. And I said it last year to the Noodle guys when we first met. Bubble built an ecosystem without doing anything. They built a tool that was easy enough to use. They publicized it. They made it popular. People started using it. They couldn't use it well enough on their own, so they started asking for help from people who've already been using it for longer. And that just created a money ecosystem out of thin air. And then when the money ecosystem gets created and starts spiraling up and up and up, you get people starting companies based on Bubble development. You get people starting entire communities all over the world with no code and Bubble things and Bubble training and Bubble whatever t-shirts and caps and whatever. The more that financial ecosystem grows, the more that we will actually be able to deliver on these promises. But what we need is people to take those first steps. We need to get a lot of people in to use the tool, to start building, to start asking for help, to create that ecosystem, the financial ecosystem that will permit us to not only get people contributing those pebbles, as Pedro said, but also getting ways that we can get income sources to finance improvements, to continue that virtuous cycle and to make it spiral out of control until it becomes what Bubble is today, unfortunately, which is, I say unfortunately, fortunately for the people who are in the Bubble world, but not for people who know the truth about how crap Bubble is. The ecosystem is incredibly strong. It's a religion. I was there when it started. So I was a developer when it started, and I rode the wave in the first COVID year. So from 20, whatever it was when COVID happened, 2020, 2021 to today, it's no time. And it's become a huge, huge industry all over the world. So I'm hoping that we can get there too with the right kind of motivation, the right kind of volunteering, the right kind of help, the right kind of onboarding. Anyway, Fred has a question. Let me just hand the mic over.
Hey everyone. Bonjour. Bonjour, you hear me well? Yes, hello. Yes, nice to meet you all. Sorry, I arrived quite late to the party, but I did read your documentation about the foundation. I saw everything. I would say my biggest concern is the financing part. I've read through the mission statements at the what's it called, Firefox and Blender 3D software. They are both open source, and most what I saw from these successful open source companies, I would say open source projects, is that they get most of their financing from corporates. The problem with the users is that they may use the software once, twice for one or two projects and then leave and go. If you are not a professional developer, why would you contribute financing on a quarterly or a yearly basis? So my concern is about this financing thing. I think it's gonna be bleeding a lot of money if we still have to pay always, every month, every quarter, a developer to make Bubble up to the standards in terms of upgrades, security, compatibility. It's gonna be a lot of bleeding, and without a few solid corporate sponsorship, it's unrealistic. I don't believe members can sustain that. I just want to be realistic. I'm not trying to downplay anything. I am very excited. I come from Bubble as well. I used Wappler. I used SAP, AppGyver, Build Apps. I was quite disappointed by all of these platforms, but this one is fantastic. But I'm not sure I will still be using it in 2 years, and I believe a few members may be in the same situation. So my suggestion would be if we can know what would be the recurring cost in the long term, and which corporate can sponsor the foundation. These are key questions. Otherwise, it sounds overly ambitious. Over to you guys.
Thanks, Fred. I appreciate it. And I think it's very important what you're saying as well. We would love to have the corporate financing in the end. That's got to be one of the sort of spiritual missions, is to find higher level financing for the things that we're doing. Have partners who can work with the foundation, knowing that because it's a non-profit, it can't be controlled by an outside partner. So it would only be contributions. It wouldn't be them buying a stake in the non-profit that doesn't exist, So, but it could be developing, for example, one of our things that we're not talking about yet, but that we have as a core mission is one day we do believe, like you said, Fred, in 2 years, we might not be using Noodle. We believe that it's important to look at whether we can build an alternative tool to Noodle that uses the same logic and the same user experience as Noodle. If we can build out something over the next couple of years so that when Noodle comes to the end of its life cycle, we have something more solid that we can move on to that's inspired 100% from Noodle, that people can move from Noodle to this new tool extremely easily, that they can import their projects from Noodle to that new tool very, very easily with the click of a button, with the project JSON just getting imported and all the nodes appearing in the new tool like nothing happened, and just connecting up your backend to that new tool. And, so that can have corporate financing, because that tool could theoretically be a tool that is owned intellectual property by the Low Code Foundation, but is sponsored by a corporate company that has some sort of stake in it where they can get some return on their investment. And that's something that we can definitely get that kind of funding if we prove that the current tool, just think of it like developing a SaaS. If you develop a SaaS and you've got your MVP and you've got the first 50 users who love it, but the platform you built it on sucks because you built it on WordPress or something crap, or like whatever, Bubble, for example, imagine. So, and that's what happens to most Bubble apps. You build it on Bubble, you prove that it works, you go to a financer, you go to an investor and say, look, this works, but we need better technology. We need a better stack, or it's never going to fly. It's never going to scale. And that's when you get the big funding to build it out in Vue.js, or to build it out in Next.js or React or whatever your chosen framework is. So that's something we can say. We have a lot of users in Noodle. We've built some serious apps, but it has an expiration date. We're looking at 1 to 2 years. We need funding to build this new tool. We have the plan because we know how the source code works. We know how to build the new tool. We know what it's going to have as features. We're going to copy most of the stuff from Noodle and we're going to make something better. That's where you can get, I think, really start to look at corporate financing big time. And so I'm hoping that will come up. I just want to take one more question because we're over time, and I would like to get one last question in. So I will hand over the mic.
Hello, you hear me? Everybody hears me? Great. Okay, so my question is because I didn't come from Bubble. I use another a no code tool that was not satisfying at all, and this is how I came to find my way to Noodle. And I've never been in a transition like this, and for me it's something very interesting to see and just to follow up on what is happening here. First, congrats on taking on this challenge and trying to take over what is left behind. And this is basically my question. How did we even get to this point? Because this is something I have never really wrapped my head around so far, because Noodle was, from my understanding, not built as an, or initially not thought of as an open source model, or that it will be handed over to the community. Or at least when I started using Noodle, I didn't have the impression that this is the long way idea of it. And since communication from the Noodle team wasn't all too good, and now I didn't see any kind of deep involvement from the OG members of the Noodle team, I'm just thinking, how did we get here? And this is my question. Did the Noodle business model in that sense fail, and now the community is taking over with kind of the same approach? Because this is how it feels like looking from it from the outside without having been in it from the get-go. That's it from me.
Great. That's a very good question. We'll try to answer as much as I can, but we can only say what has been officially released from the Noodle OGs, as you said. What they have said, and then I can say what I've observed. So what has been said is that, that last year, the Noodle tool was designed to be a SaaS product, or a PaaS product. So people using it, paying a license for the editor when they get serious, and as their team grows, and then paying for hosting. They found the same thing that Bubble found, I think, from what I could see from their post that they made, which is that business model was not working for them. They can't sustain it. And so they wanted to open source the tool to protect it so that the community can carry on using it. It was also something that they promised from the beginning, as Bubble did, that if they ever go out of business, they will open source the tool so that people can carry on using it, which is great. And so, big respect to the Noodle team and the OGs for coming through with that, because we would have all been in a really difficult position, me especially, if I had to go 100% back to Bubble. I would have cried. So that's where they're at, is they took that noble decision to make it open source. Their investor luckily agreed to that, and they were allowed to make the tool open source and then close the company down. I mean, their company's still open, but it's I guess a skeleton company. It's only got the founders left in it. I imagine they have no more money to pay themselves, so that's why we haven't seen much of them. And what we can observe is that since the moment that they shut the company down, there has been essentially zero communication from it's James, Anders, Michael Cartner, and Michael Telhead are the four surviving members of that company. So people like Johan and Kotta and Eric and Victor are all now out of the company. So they're in the community just as volunteers. So where we're at today is just that they have open sourced the tool. They promised that they would keep the support going until summer. That has not happened and does not appear to be happening. All of the feature requests that have been put in the GitHub have not been answered. We took on the challenge of releasing the Mac and Windows versions of Noodle with the working AI, because it was working in the source code, but we put in months ago a request for them to publish a new executable on Windows and a new damage file for Mac that has the working AI. They just had to sign it and publish it, and nobody has done it yet. So I safely assume that there is no active work from the OG team happening on the Noodle code base. So we forked it, we produced the executable, signed the damage files for Mac, and released those so that people could start using the AI again. So that's where we're at, is what you've said. The community has to take over 100%. We have the source code. We don't have anybody who can explain the source code to us. We don't have anybody who can help us with that code. We're 100% on our own. And all the more reason to have then a foundation to help us to come together as a community and collaborate, put those pebbles in, as Pedro said, get the funding, as Fred was talking about and Byron was talking about, and be able to take this thing forward. We're not going to be a 20-person company like Noodl was. We're not going to waste money on salaries and trying to sell to finance the salaries of the people who are building and maintaining the tool. We're going to do it in a really lo-fi way. We're going to do it in a real MVP way. We're only going to spend money when it's necessary, and we're not going to be reliant on profits to stay open. We're going to try to stay open as a community, as people contributing for free and also for profit, hopefully, so that everybody can live from what we're doing, but we can also keep this code base going and keep this dream alive. And that's what we're trying to do with the foundation. But that is where we're at. You're exactly 100% on the button. We are alone. And, you know, projects like ours, Fluxcape, are projects that are going to keep Noodle alive. And I hope there will be more. I hope that we're not the only one, but I hope that we can be an arbiter and stand as a non-profit arbiter of other projects and, you know, talk about other projects from an objective point of view, talk about what's happening in the community from an objective point of view, and keep ourselves financially divested from what's happening in the Noodle world and just try to help the Noodle dream survive. Thank you very much all for coming. I'm afraid I have to shoot off and go and pick up some kids from school. But I really appreciate all the participation so far. It's really touching. And I'll publish this video on YouTube for anybody who didn't see it. You can direct them towards that video. And I would love to see you all again in a future AMA. Maybe in a week or two's time, I'll organize it and let you know. But big thanks to Guillaume and to Pedros and Byron for their contributions as founding members of the association as well. And I hope you guys will all sign up as members when we open membership within the next week or two. So big thanks to everybody. Wish you all a great day. Take care. And thanks. Bye, everybody.